today to introduce Jill Lublin to everybody. Jill, how are you today?
I'm doing phenomenal. Thank you. How about you?
I'm terrific. So let me tell everybody a little bit about you, because this is a topic for my listeners who are generally in network marketing, part-time, full-time. Some of them are other, they own other businesses, real estate, insurance, et cetera, and they do network marketing on the side. So everything to do with publicity is relevant to our listeners, Jill. So I really appreciate you being with us. Let me tell everybody a little bit about Jill. She's an international speaker on the topics of publicity, networking, kindness, and referrals. She is the author of 4 best-selling books, including Get Noticed, Get Referrals, and co-author of Guerrilla Publicity, as well as Networking Magic. Her latest book, Profit of Kindness, went #1 in 4 categories. Jill is a master strategist on how to position your business for more profitability and more visibility in the marketplace. She's the CEO of a strategic consulting firm and has over 25 years experience working with over 100,000 people, plus national and international media. Jill teaches a virtual publicity boot camp. By the way, I've taken a little bit of your course already, and consults and speaks all over the world. She's spoken on stage with many luminaries, including the great Tony Robbins. Jill also leads a conscious kindness community, which I love, especially with everything going on in the world right now, Jill, certainly. You can visit, okay, this is really important, folks, so I'm going to slow down for a second. Visit publicitycrashcourse.com, helps if I could talk, publicitycrashcourse.com/free gift, and Jill Lublin, that's Jill, JILLLUBLIN.com. And she's got some free materials for you that you can certainly benefit from, as well as her great books. So Jill, welcome to Leaving Nothing to Chance.
Thank you, John. Delight to be here.
So Jill, let's just start at the top. What is public relations?
Well, let me just say, all of you are doing it, whether you know it or not. So let's get, focused on it and singular about it. But the truth is, public relations happens from the minute you walk out your door, into the Zoom room, into a Starbucks, on the plane. Public relations is always happening, meaning you're being seen, heard, and thought about. So that's why I'm so big on it's all public relations, really.
Now, I know you feel strongly about the message. What is it and how do we create it?
I love the message. So, if you think about when somebody says, what do you do? The question is, do you have an answer? Do you know what you do? Is this something that you can relate quickly and concisely and precisely? That's the message. And not only is this great for networking, for client acquisition, for prospecting, it's really important for media.
So tell me what an expert is.
An expert is everyone listening right now. And John, of course, you're an expert. I mean, really, if you're here listening to this podcast, I can guarantee you're an expert. The question is, in what? What do you know a lot about? What are you resourced in? But think about who the media interviews. They interview experts. So I just want all of you to start, in a way, claiming I'm one. You can start right there, and that would be a step up for many people.
Well, and I couldn't agree more, because people follow people who are not only competent but confident. I'd love your thoughts on that.
Exactly my point, John, because I think that confidence attracts people to you. What I've noticed, literally working with 100,000 people, is that when you're confident, when you know what your message is, when it's authentic to you, I want it to be authentic and resonant for who you are, your personality, your style, and I know some people are introverts and some people are more comfortable going out and being extroverted. But what I've discovered is that, I train people how to do your message. We go through it. We write it out in the Publicity Breakthrough Bootcamp. And guess what I've noticed? As soon as people start feeling more comfortable and confident, which happens pretty quick, when you've got somewhat of a script, yes, I put it on a yellow Post-it right in front of you. Notice my taped yellow Post-it.
I got them. We're telling something about our age here using these, by the way.
But you know what? I can see it. I don't have to look at a phone. I don't have to look at something else on a computer, whatever it is. I'm just saying, I want you to be clear about your message. And then what I've noticed is, if you follow a certain formula, the confidence level goes way up. And that's a great thing.
Here's a game-changing question. And it's this. What's the secret sauce for creating a great media script?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. But if I tell you, I have to kill you. No, I'm just kidding. Here's the secret sauce, patented, but available to you right now because you're listening. And that is, follow this formula. The problem today is, and then fill in that blank, but don't say, I'm having problems with my wife or kids. Or, I mean, this is like a business related question. What's the problem out there? Remember, this is for media. Media cares about their readers, their viewers, their listeners, right? And so with that, you got to be thinking about the daily news, the morning news, the daily newspaper, excuse me, the morning news on, on TV, which by the way, yes, what I love about media now is everything's like duplicated because it's not only the morning news, but it's also online. And, I'm looking at my phone for news, but then you go deeper into the story on ABC TV, right? So what we have accessible is much more availability to news, which means you have much more opportunity to be in the news. Okay, so that's a bit of a sidebar, but let me go back to the formula, which is, the problem today is, boom. And then I want you to give three, yes, count them, three solutions. Tell people what to do, my friends. Just be clear. Give them 5-year-old language, right? And make it really simple. Like, make whatever you know really simple. So let's say you're selling a specific product in network marketing, and maybe it's for weight loss. The problem today, and I know this because I've worked with people who sell, network marketing weight loss supplements, for instance. And I would say the problem today is 67% of Americans are obese. You can also say overweight. You can say different things. So 3 things you can do, and then give them maybe 2 things very specific that are good for weight loss. And the third thing would be get on a product that makes weight loss easier. Right? But you don't say, buy my product, because if you do that, you know how it is. People are going to tune out. So we always have to give people, here's the 2 words, value and benefit.
Wow. Great stuff. What's the ooh-ah factor?
Oh, ooh-ah is a soundbite, number 1. And I want you to think about, do you have sound bites? Mine is, one of my messages is to create the ooh-ah factor. And, it's something fun. It's something that people can glob onto, so to speak, and that they can remember, right? You want, again, make things easy. And so what's an ooh-ah factor? It's using what I like to call everything you've got. So in some people's cases, it will be using their personal story. It will be using your ethnicity, your religion, what makes you different, what makes you unique. Like I have a firefighter who was the first woman firefighter in a rural North Carolina town where she is. Now she's helping people put fires out in their business as a business consultant. How can she do that? Because she's a former firefighter. That's her ooh-ah factor. You use all parts of who you are. And I'll tell you, this has been so powerful. Listen, I had a woman, she was in my boot camp recently, and I look across the screen and on Zoom, and I said, may I ask you what ethnicity you are? And she said, I'm Filipino. I said, I want you to know, we've been having this problem called #StopAsianHate. Now, she was in the program to I'll call it up level her clients, to promote and publicize her digital marketing agency, which is really what she does. But I said to her, think about #StopAsianHate. Let's go out and talk about that. That's using everything she's got, her ooh-ah factor. Do you know, by doing that, following my systems and advice, do you know what happened? She ended up in the top 30, under 30 Filipino Business Journal. She's 28 at the time. Can I just share with you how powerful that was for building her business, for reputation, for credibility, to attract clients? She got major speaking engagements with Les Brown. I mean, all kinds of dreams came true. And let me say, her digital marketing agency took off because of publicity. And it wasn't necessarily always related to, here's how you do digital marketing. See, this is what I want. And one of my main messages to people is keep looking at other parts of who you are and how you can expand your story, right? And I think that's really interesting.
Wow, that's some great stuff. I could think of so many examples we don't have time to get into, but I'm a big fan of Rip Esselstyn, for example. I use some of his food products, and he's a former firefighter. right? And triathlete, but same thing, Engine 2. He called his company Engine 2, right? Because when you think Engine 2, what do you think of? Think of fire truck, right?
Yes.
And gee, let me put out your health problems, right? And you know, and he's kind of used some of you may even be the person training him because he's used some of that in his business. But I can think of so many examples. But let's keep going, Jill, because I know you're a little pressed for time. Let's talk about the ROI on publicity and maybe the lack of ROI on people who don't believe in publicity or don't use publicity properly.
Here's the deal, really straight, is if you use publicity, you go into the front of the line. Why? People know your name. Trust factor is built. You know, because you've been interviewed, because I'm here talking to you, you have a name recognition for Jill Lublin now. Maybe I wasn't in your sphere before. Same thing for all of you. You'll get in people's sphere. You'll be in front of people that perhaps you never knew before because they'll start seeing you and hearing you. Really what publicity does is get you seen, get you heard, and get you paid, my friends, bottom line. And that is a good thing. And, you know, let me just share with you that when you're looking at ROI, you get one line in whether it's a magazine, a newspaper, a blog, whether you're on a podcast, how we in the publicity world measure ROI is if you are paying for that time in advertising. I just would tell you most of you couldn't afford it, you know, because you measure how much that translates to if you had to buy it in advertising. So one time, for instance, I got featured in it was a local daily paper for a TV show I work on called Messages of Hope. I got a 1.5-page article. They looked at my books, they talked about my career. It was really quite beautiful. The focus was hope. Interestingly enough, it wasn't publicity, but yet what you got to understand is when you're interviewed, they will, like you're doing now, John, go into multiple different parts of who you are and your message. That one article would have cost me, get this, and this was 5 years ago, okay? And I've had more since then, but just as an example, that one article would have cost $50,000, you know, if I bought it in advertising. And you know that one article made me $10,000 in one day because people signed up for my program. You know, my website stats went up by 43%. My book sales increased dramatically. I don't have the number right in my head right now. That's what I'm talking about. And I can point this to almost every industry that when publicity happens, like a woman who wrote a self-published book, she sold 42 books in a 15-minute podcast. Where else can you do that? That's what I'm talking about. It creates sales, it creates interest, and it creates something that's not quite as measurable, but very important, and that is trust. That is credibility. That's the visibility factor, what I like to call the I've heard of you somewhere syndrome. And the measurable part is how much would this have cost had you paid for it, had you bought the time? That's a big question.
I love your thoughts on this. Is there any such thing as bad publicity?
Well, you know, honestly, for most of you listening and watching, you're not going to get bad publicity. It's not a concern of mine. Now, for big companies who, you know, frankly, have very big PR budgets, and think about that. Why do they have very big PR budgets? Because they know how important it is. And, you know, typical marketing and publicity budget is 10% of gross revenues at a minimum. Okay. So is there a bad thing about bad publicity? Is there such a thing? I haven't seen it for most of the entrepreneurs and people like your audience that we would work together to create a message that is powerful. And, you know, if there's one thing that kind of goes a little negative or awry, or you get lost in an interview or something happens that doesn't make you look as good, here's the good news. Most people will never remember it.
True.
No, it's really true. Now, for the, you know, big celebrities and sometimes the publicity, yeah, of course, you know, there might be a moment, but again, for most entrepreneurs, small business owners, it's nothing I'm ever concerned about.
Great. Is there a way to get free publicity? What would be a way to get free publicity?
Well, one thing I'd suggest all of you to do right now is go to Google Alerts, put in your name, because when you're being interviewed, I want you, I want you to show up. I want people to know that you've been interviewed and seen and heard. So that is free, your name, plus here's the second thing you do, which most people miss. You put in one word. Like, for instance, when The Profit of Kindness came out, this is my latest book, I put in the word kindness. Do you know that I found out, John, that World Kindness Day is November 13th, and
Oh,
we do a conscious kindness circle, and happy to provide the link to people. But let me just say, I didn't know that before I wrote a book on kindness, right? And how it influences business. So here's what's interesting. And I have the word publicity in Google alerts, right? And I have so different words. Now, the super cool thing about that is you will start to see, when are people talking about what you're an expert in and influential in. You'll also see when other people are talking about you, when you get picked up. So here's a great example of how important this is. In your neck of the world, ABC TV Dallas actually reached out to me, since I wrote Guerrilla Publicity, and the CEO of a major ad agency in Dallas made a racist remark. And they said, Jill, we want you to comment on this. What do you think? By the way, at that point already, Home Depot fired them, Diet Dr. Pepper fired them, Motel 6 fired them, all clients of theirs, right? I mean, it kind of went down.